Hey y'all, welcome to Gemini Outdoors. For today we'll be continuing our discussion on our Theory of Life series, The Illusion of Freedom. This video will be entitled Rights versus Privileges. So in our first section here that we're going to cover, I'm going to ask a question, and that is, what is a right? So let's define a right. A right is an entitlement that you are endowed with at birth by your Creator. That is the definition of a right. Some examples of a basic right are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, according to the Declaration of Independence, that we so cherish as one of our founding documents. Everybody has a right to life. You have a right to live, and no one should be able to take that away from you. You should have a right to liberty, which is freedom. Basically, the freedom to be able to go live your life, to be able to do the things that you want to do, without hurting anyone else. And the pursuit of happiness, which is, that's a lot of things to people. It could be, starting your own business. It could be, buying land, buying a house. It could be getting married, having a family, all those kinds of things. That is the pursuit of happiness. Now, those are just some basic rights that we talk about. Other rights are spelled out in our Bill of Rights to our Constitution. And our founders were very, very thought it was very important to list out those rights. And a lot of those are under attack today. And that's why it was so important for them to make a Bill of Rights. Now, with any right, there comes inferred rights. And what inferred rights mean, those are the ones that are not clearly written down in the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. And in inferred rights, you could talk about the right to self-defense. If you have a right to life, then you have a right to defend that life. That's also partly part of the Second Amendment as well in our Bill of Rights. You have a right to self-defense. You have an inferred right to privacy, even though you won't find that really written down anywhere in the Constitution, maybe with illegal searches and seizures and stuff like that. It says it is inferred that you have a right to privacy. So knowing what those kinds of rights are very important, because if we don't know what they are, it makes it that much easier for our opponents to take them away from us. Like right now, a lot of people hear Hillary Clinton talk about how I have a right to regulate rights. Where'd that come from? She's going to claim, the Supreme Court and all this other stuff. I have a right to regulate your rights. No, you don't. It was never written to be that way. All you're really doing is repeating something some judge said that was making law from a bench. So, no, you don't. There's so many things that we have to be aware of and to keep vigilant about. And because they're going to take these rights away from us and turn them into privileges, which I'm going to get to here in the next section. And that's what they want to do. They want to turn all of your rights, and they're succeeding right now, by the way, because of people, well, to be honest with you, like I was. Used to, I didn't care. I cared, but I didn't enough to go to the polls and to vote. And there's still a lot of us out there today. Just imagine this number, all right? I'm going to say a number, and I want you to think about this. 90 million. You're saying, well, what does 90 million have to do with anything? 90 million is one of the estimated numbers of gun owners in this country. And I guarantee you, if you're a gun owner, you've heard this statement. Well, I ain't going to let them take away my gun rights. And yet, here they are not registered to vote, and they don't go vote in November when this stuff counts. They are going to take your gun rights. Hillary Clinton is going to take our gun rights. She's already said it, and though in any uncertain terms, she's coming after our Second Amendment. She's coming after our rifles. She's coming after our pistols. She's coming after our shotguns. She's coming after our muzzle loaders. Eventually, she's going to come after the air guns, folks. Wake up, gun owners. Go register and vote. Register and vote. If 90 million of us go to the polls, it'd be a landslide. A landslide. And yet, so many of us, and I was bad about it too back in the day, I would think, oh, my vote doesn't count. That's how I would think, and I never voted. And now I realize how big of a mistake I'd made. Yes, you need to. If your vote's going to be counted, you got to go vote. That's just the way it is, folks. If we beat them in a landslide, guess what? They can't do this whole thing. Oh, we're going to steal the election. This election's going to be close. Second Amendment people, I'm begging you, go out, register to vote, and vote come November. You don't got much time. You need to go register now. You need to get your stuff situated to where you know where you got to go vote, and you show up, you present your ID if they have ID laws in your state, and then you vote. Plain simple. 90 million of us, they can't ignore that. But you got to care. You got to be willing to do it. If you care about your rights, if you care about freedom of speech, if you care about any of this stuff, you need to go out and vote. It's imperative that you vote. Our rights are at stake. Our basic rights. The progressive globalists want to take that away. They won't take all that away. They don't want your vote to matter, because eventually they want to make it to where, guess what? Your vote, you ain't even going to vote. They're going to dictate to us how we're going to live our lives, and I don't think any of us want that. So let's move on to our next section. Okay, in this section, I'm going to do the same things I did in the last. I'm just going to ask a question. What is a privilege? Well, let's define it. A privilege is an entitlement that you acquire for a period of time through a payment of compensation. That's what a privilege is. Examples of privileges would be your driver's license. You think, hey, you're in a free country, you should have the freedom of movement, right? Not quite. You have to have a driver's license. A hunting and fishing license. Something that man has been doing since the dawn of time. You have to have a license to go hunt and fish now? Are you for real? But yeah, you do. It's no longer a right to you. It's no longer a right for you to be able to go out and say, hey, you know what, I'm hungry today. I'm hungry, my family's hungry. I'm going to go feed my family by going and go hunting, or I'm going to go down here and go fishing, catch me a fish, and basically be able to feed your family off the land. You can't do that no more. And I'm going to make a prediction. I've made this prediction in the last few videos, and I'm telling you right now, the day is going to come when you're going to have a license to be able to plant a backyard garden. It's coming, folks. It's coming. You watch. There's going to be some kind of mysterious outbreak of E. coli or something like that, and the government's going to sweep in with the EPA, and they're going to be like, you know what, we cannot trust you guys anymore to do your own backyard gardens. You know what, you're going to have a license. We're going to regulate everything you do, all your pesticides and blah, 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 and you're going to have a license to grow a garden in your backyard. And guess what, in the wintertime, your backyard garden's not going to grow anyway. Unless you have a greenhouse, which then you got to invest more money in. See where I'm going? Last video about the taxes, fees, and fines. But anyway, I predict that. You have to go buy a car registration. to be able to drive your car. So there's two right there, two fees that you got to spend money on to license yourself to have a privilege of driving. There's two right there. Two for one thing. You think they're reaching, double dipping in the bucket on that one? I do. They're smart about it. What other types of privileges do you have? You have to have a business license, don't you? To do a business? For most people, anyway, you do. To be able to own a business, you have to do that. That's a privilege. Think about all the privilege. Basically, you can take taxes, fees, and fines and apply it to this, and you'll see the privileges that you get. It's no longer a right if you have to pay for it. It's no longer free. It's no longer a freedom. I mean, privileges are not rights. I don't care how you cut it. And you're going to have the hunters come in here, and they're going to say, oh, well, we have to regulate and all that. I didn't say the first thing about I don't believe that we have to limit certain amounts that we take. Of course we do. But if you're an outdoorsman, and you're a hunter, or you're a fisherman, or whatever genre you fit into with the outdoors, you're smart enough to know that if you kill everything out in an area, you're not going to have nothing there. So I'm all for limits. Yeah, I'm for limiting the amount of bucks or limiting the amount of fish that you take from the land and the water. I'm fine with that. But what I'm saying is I have a problem with having to go buy a piece of paper to be able to do something that should be a right. Another good example of that is a concealed carry license. According to the Constitution, I have the right to keep and bear arms. Keep an arm at my house or my business, and bear an arm when I'm out walking around in public. It's clearly written there. And we've taken that and we've turned it into a paid privilege. That can be taken away from us at any time. For almost any reason. Think about that for a minute. A privilege. It is not a right. Another privilege now is privacy. The government feels like they can go in and read your emails whenever they feel like it. They feel like they should be able to listen into your phone calls whenever they feel like it. All because of some sense of security. I'm trying to do the quotation mark thing and it didn't work. Security. Is security actually real? I mean, think about it. They like you to think it is, and they like for you to think that there's some guy about to come in and save the day that's got 3 little letters on written across their chest. Oh, this FBI agent's going to protect me. Right at the moment the guy busts in the door, or the police. They can't be everywhere at once. It's impossible. But they want to listen in because you're the problem. That may be another video I do. You're the problem. Not them, you are. You're the problem. You're the reason why you can't be trusted with your own privacy, or you've been able to go out and hunt and fish. You're the problem. Not the government. No, they didn't have nothing to do with it. The next question in the next section, I guess I'm just going to add into this one. So what rights have we turned into privileges? Well, hunting and fishing for one. Used to, back in the days, that's how you lived. There was no way around it. If you wanted to live around here, you had to go hunting and fishing. You had to grow your own garden. You had to grow your own crops. Stuff like that. Go out and find wild edibles and all that. Nowadays, you can't do that without some kind of license. It's ridiculous, folks. Think about that. Really, really sit down and think about how many rights we have sacrificed on the altar of security, safety and security, and we've gotten absolutely nothing in return for. Think about that. Transportation, of course, I've already covered that about you have to have a driver's license. You have to go get your car registered, blah, 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 all this other stuff. And it's like, you think in a country where we are free, we would have the basic freedom of movement without having. Now, am I saying everybody needs to be able to drive? Well, obviously, if you've driven roads, there's some people who don't need to have that right, but most of them are adjudicated where they can't have a driver's license anyway. So, you get my point. Privacy can pretty much be considered a privilege now. I mean, think about it. I have to be very careful what I say, even here on YouTube, because of the terms of service, and that's a video coming in the future too. But you also have to be very, very careful when you are on the phone nowadays, because you never do know who's listening in. The NSA is sitting there like, yep, we knew it. They're reading your emails. They're looking at your Facebook and your Twitter posts, your YouTube videos, all that stuff they're watching, folks. I mean, it's ridiculous. It is really, really getting bad. And it's all our fault. We've allowed them to do it by our voting. I said it's so important to get out and vote. It's your most fundamental right. One of your most fundamental rights, next to what's in the Bill of Rights. It is your utmost responsibility. It can almost be considered your duty to go and vote, to stop this stuff. We can stop this stuff if people would start giving a damn now. Like I said, I hear it too much. Oh, my vote don't count. I'm not even going to worry about it. You're the problem. You're the problem. I was the problem. Finally, I realized that. You know what? If I don't, what it came to was when I had my son, and I realized I was dropping the ball for him because of what I'm not using my voice now to make a better life for him in the future when I'm gone and my grandkids are here. My grandkids are going to be left with the legacy of what I did or did not do. So you going to the polls and voting is very important. It's something that has to be done, and you have to do it for your kids and your grandkids. And you can't sit there and say, "Oh, to hell with them." That tells you that's the biggest problem with the last generation. My father's generation they were just like, "Oh, to hell with it." And now here we are in a generation that's even much worse. And the next generation of my kids are going to be a lot worse. So let's move on to the next section, please. So in this section, I'm going to ask another question. Why does the government want to turn rights to privileges? Government can control privileges a lot easier than it can control rights. It cannot control rights. Rights are not supposed to be regulated, unlike what Miss Clinton believes. Oh, I can regulate a right. No, you can't. No, you can't. You can't regulate that stuff. It's written in the Constitution. Shall not be infringed. How many times does it have to be said? Shall not be infringed. Government likes to control things. Big government loves to control things, and total government, that's all they do is control things. And that's where we're heading. And a privilege, so a bought and paid for privilege only goes to a few, because a lot of people can't afford it. That's why they're in the process right now of making transportation more along the lines of public transportation instead of private transportation. They want to make it so expensive that you can't afford to keep. It's hard enough to keep a car on the road today with maintenance and gas and all the other things that you got to do to it. On top of the insurance, the tags, the licenses, and all this other stuff. Think about it. Think about it. Why do they want you taking public transportation? They control public transportation. They know where you're going. They know where you're going to go. They want you to be where you're at and not be able to get away from it. Another thing is what could be concealed carry permits or licenses. The government knows who's got the guns and who can walk around with them. They can't control you from having a gun in your house, but they can control who has a gun walking around in public. Now, yes, I do buy a concealed carry license. I have a concealed carry license. And I carry every day. Everywhere that will allow me to. And I'm a big supporter of constitutional carry. I believe that the Constitution gives me every license that I need. It gives me the right to be able to keep and bear my arms everywhere. But the government has said, okay, we're not going to trust, all you certain amount of people who we consider undesirables, the poor, and we're going to do everything that we possibly can to make life very difficult on you so that you can't carry this stuff, can't carry these guns. Oh, you want to have a speech in a public forum? Well, you got to pay this license. Do you see what I'm saying? They're whittling away at our rights one by one, and it's our fault. We put these people in. We put these progressive globalists in office. And look what they do to us. A privilege can be amended anytime with the government. The government can say, well, you know what? We don't like the idea that you're walking around with this concealed carry weapon. We don't like that because you have this belief that don't tread on me belief, this militant belief in freedom. We're going to take it away from you. You can't carry your gun anymore. You have to leave it at home. Just because we don't like your belief system. You don't think they can't do it? A privilege can be amended at any time for any reason by the government. Rights, on the other hand, can only be amended by the people in a constitutional amendment. So the people have to vote on it. That's kind of interesting. The more rights the people choose to lose, the bigger the government becomes. And we're seeing it now. The government is probably the biggest it has ever been in the history of the United States. And look at how bad the private sector is doing. There's a reason. There's a reason. And when you get government that gets that big, they want to control everything. Look at the way all these regulations are coming down. Do you notice that these regulating bodies they don't have to answer to the people? They answer to what? The government. The government answers to the people. We have allowed them to become so big that now their regulatory agencies have gotten so big, like the EEOC, for example, that's trying to declare the Gadsden flag racist, which is ludicrous. But they got these big. The EEOC? I mean, they sit there and determine what's racist in the workplace or not. And I'm sitting here like, I never remember the government asking us if we were okay with it. Wonder why. All big government wants to do, once government gets big like it is now, it wants to become total government. It wants to completely bypass other points of view and other belief systems. So they want to be able to say, talking points flew off. They want to be able to say, you know what, we don't really care what you think. You're just people. You're peons. We're the big government. We're total government now. You know what? We don't care what you think. We're coming to get your guns. We're going to take your car away from you. You're going to have to use public transportation or walk. You know what? We don't like the fact that you can speak your mind. You know what? You're going to keep your mouth shut. You know what? We don't really care whether you like it or not. We're going to come in your house and we're going to take your stuff. We're going to take your emails. We're going to take your regular mail. We're going to check out what you've been posting on Facebook. We're going to check out what you've been posting on Twitter. We're going to check out what your YouTube videos, and blah, 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 blah. We don't like the fact you own a business. We're going to take it over. That's what total government is, and that's where we're heading. And if Hillary Clinton gets elected, we're going to get even closer to it, if not actually get there. Big government wants to become total government. It's in its nature. It's in its nature. Big government just wants to turn into total government. Because people cannot be trusted with power. That's what our founders knew. That's why our founders wrote the Constitution. That's why all these progressive globalists and the global elite that are out there wants to do away with our Constitution for that very reason. That very reason. They don't like the idea that, hey, Johnny down the road here can decide that you know what? I'm going to decide how I'm going to run my house. I want to decide how I'm going to, keep my yard up. I'm going to decide what I'm going to believe and what I don't want to believe. And these people honestly sit there and think that they can do it better than you. Maybe they can or maybe they can't. Our founders said, you know what? We don't care what George Washington thinks, what John Adams thinks. If John Q. Public wants to do something a certain way, they got the right to go do it. They have the right to go do it. And you don't have a right to tell them how to run their life. That's the essence of America. Americans want to be left alone. I don't want nobody coming off the street and coming in my house and saying, hey, Kevin, you know what, today we don't like the way your house looks. Hell, I don't like the way my house looks. Won't you clean it up? I'm like, you know what? My Constitution gives me the right to tell you to go to hell. That's the way I feel about it. I mean, that's really all there should be. That's the close to this video, pretty much. I can tell you to go to hell, and there ain't gonna be no repercussions for it. But we're losing that, people, because we're allowing rights to become privileges. And if we allow rights to become privileges, then that starts us down the road to subjugation. And that will be our next video. Take her easy.